The regular season is winding down, so let's recap Week 16 with our weekly vibe check where we rank every NFL team's week. In a season with crazy moments and crazy games, this might have been the craziest one. Teams continue to clinch. Teams continue to get eliminated. So let's start the countdown of how every NFL team's week went. At number 32, the Kansas City Chiefs. Last week, your quarterback tore his ACL. This week, your quarterback tore his ACL. Almost. Gardner Minshew suffered a knee injury and will miss the rest of the season, meaning it's Chris Oladoku's turn to take over as the lead trumpet player on the band on the Titanic. This also means that the Chiefs are one QB injury away from seeing if Megan Trainor has any juice left in the tank. This team is falling, and falling hard. I didn't know the Super Bowl hangover had that negative of an effect on knees. Chiefs fans have not felt this bad since the 2017 NFL Draft, when they thought they made a huge mistake by trading up for Patrick Mahomes. This was an afternoon where the Chiefs really didn't have a chance. They lost 26-9. The Titans are slowly improving, and the Chiefs are down bad. Rashee Rice is out versus the Titans due to a concussion, which made it much more difficult for him to pay attention in driver's ed. Vibes haven't been this bad in Kansas City since Tom Brenneman had to apologize to Reds fans that one time. Nika Remigio got hit in the dick by a Titans player's helmet on a punt return, which the last time a Titan made that big of an impact on a Chiefs player's dick was when Taylor Swift wrote the song Wood. Now the Chiefs won't even be in Missouri that much longer. Vibes couldn't be worse. At number 31, the Green Bay Packers. This ending was an absolute heartbreaker for Packers fans. Jordan Love got his bell rung against the Bears, meaning everyone got to watch Malik Willis be actually pretty damn good, and I hope he gets to start somewhere next year. Malik Willis threw a critical third quarter touchdown to Romeo Doubs against the Bears. However, Doubs and his marshmallow helmet sacrificed his ability to catch after that very play. Doubs dropped the onside kick, giving the Bears another opportunity. They capitalized. Jingleheimer Schmidt fumbled in overtime, and they capitalized again. This matchup ended the same way the last Packers-Bears game ended. A player catching a Caleb Williams pass in the end zone. At one point, the Packers had a 99.1% chance to win, and they dropped the ball twice, literally. It was an unbelievable loss where you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and the heaters from the jaws of working properly? At number 30, the Los Angeles Rams. Oftentimes I put teams that suffer the biggest blowout defeats at the very bottom, but this week that's not going to be the case. The Rams-Seahawks Thursday night matchup was probably the best game of the year. The Rams had a tough week for a lot of reasons. On the field, it was not because of Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua had 12 receptions for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns, I assume because he really wanted to prove that he wouldn't do that anti-Semitic TD celebration. Matthew Stafford absolutely lit up the stat sheet as well, completing 29 passes for 457 yards, nearly half of them to Puka. But the defense forgot to do their jobs on 2 season-altering 2-point conversions. One was ricocheted on a backwards pass where Zach Charbonnet picked it up. The other one was where Sam Darnold saw Eric Salbert right in front of him and went, "Here you go." Off the field, it was because of Puka Nacua. Not only did Aiden Ross get Puka to do an anti-Semitic dance, but even worse, I now know who Aiden Ross is. He sucks. Right after the Rams loss, Puka Nacua criticized the refs by tweeting, "Appreciate you Stripes for your contribution," which is the same thing Donald Trump said to the redacted Epstein files. After that tweet, I tweeted, "Damn girl, are you a Puka Nacua tweet? Cause you've got fine written all over you." It was a rough week for the Rams, who have now fallen to second place in the highly competitive NFC West. And number 29, the New York Jets. The Jets continue to be absolute shit. Brady Cook was sacked 8 times. The Jets have now gone 15 games without catching an interception. They got their kicked in by the Saints. This team is an absolute nothing burger, and I have nothing else to say except this is Jets football. At number 28, the Washington Commanders. Things just go from bad to worse in DC. Marcus Mariota suffered a hand injury, meaning Josh Johnson gets to continue to add to his jersey collection. This is Johnson's second stint in Washington and his first one with the Washington Commanders. Once Mariota left, Josh Johnson had all the energy and excitement of Josh Johnson's speaking voice. Not that Josh Johnson, that Josh Johnson. He's very funny though, look him up. What sucks is that things started pretty well for the Commanders against the Eagles. They got the opening kickoff right back from the Eagles and went up early, But then things just kind of went downhill from there. Things went from bad to worse in the fourth quarter when the Eagles and Commanders got in a shoving match. Penalties were given out, players were ejected, and it made vibes absolutely despicable in Washington. At least they get a cool draft pick this year. At number 27, the Denver Broncos. First off, I hope Pat Bryant's okay because oh my goodness, that sucks. He took a vicious hit from Montaric Brown in garbage time, and I do think he's okay. To anyone blaming Bo Nix for his injury, yeah, him for trying to throw to an open receiver, I guess. That's his job. As much as it sucks, those kinds of injuries do happen in football. People look for someone to blame, like really quickly, and I don't believe in that. It's truly just an unfortunate incident, and I do think he's okay. Now that aside, this performance against the Jags was rough for the Broncos. But the Broncos needed to be humbled a little bit after winning 11 in a row, approximately 3 of which I remember. Denver's defense was uncharacteristically non-existent, and Bo Nix was inconsistent. The Broncos opened the week with momentum until Will Lutz's opening field goal attempt hit the upright harder than Montaric Brown hit Pat Bryant. Bo Nix's botched handoff in the third quarter while trying to mount a comeback put the game and the football out of reach for the Broncos, and Denver's winning streak is now over. They are still the top seed in the AFC, they have a playoff spot, and they control their own destiny. But this week's vibes are rough. At number 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What blows my mind about this team is that they were so much better when they weren't healthy than they are now when they are healthy. Is it a vibes thing? Is Todd Bowles leading a downward spiral? Nobody knows. This team just collapsed at inopportune times against the Panthers. They gave up a 63-yard scoring drive in under a minute at the end of the first half. The Bucs were on a potential game-tying drive before Baker Mayfield allowed Lathan Ransom to make up for his game-losing penalty last week by throwing a pass right to him in the fourth quarter, and the Bucs now fell to 7-8, and they no longer control their own destiny. Bad vibes. And number 25, the New York Giants. Listen, I don't want to be rude, but this afternoon was a giant waste of everyone's time. The only Giants touchdown was after Brian Burns destroyed JJ McCarthy's spleen, and Tyler Nubin ran it in for 6. It's a lost season. Jackson Dart had 13 net passing yards, which is brutal for a Giants team that has 13 losses this season. He's regressed under Mike Kafka after the Giants fired Brian Daboll. The O-line gave up 5 sacks, and they lost by 3 to the Vikings. An atrocious season just keeps getting worse. At least Abdul Carter and Brian Burns aren't trash. At number 24, the Dallas Cowboys. Them boys have been eliminated, and Matt Eberflus continues to be an absolutely dog-shit defensive coordinator. You'd think a hot, fast start would keep the Chargers on their toes, but all it allowed them to do is get the Cowboys defense on the field as quickly as possible. That's never a recipe for success. Sure, Ryan Terrence Williams Flournoy touchdowns are always fun, but the Cowboys were outscored 34-10 the rest of the way home. After the 8:08 mark in the second quarter, the Cowboys were shut out. The Cowboys didn't sack Justin Herbert once, which is the first time all season that the Chargers have properly protected Justin Herbert. This was not going to be the Cowboys' year. It was never going to be the Cowboys' year. George Pickens is so back though. Will they keep him after this year? They should. George Pickens and the Cowboys are perfect for each other, for better or for worse. And number 23, the Detroit Lions. Well then, this was the most interesting game of the weekend. The Steelers walked all over the Lions for a while, and then the fourth quarter happened. Yes, they gave up 2 45-yard touchdowns to Jalen Warren, and I did have to do a double take on that. They were both 45-yard touchdowns. However, those cardiac cats weren't going down without a fight. America's favorite wide receiver 3, sometimes 4, Khalif Raymond, scored from 27 yards out. Right after Jalen Warren's second TD, Jahmyr Gibbs got his first score of the day, and unfortunately his only score for the day. On the final drive, in a very peculiar sequence of events, Isaac TeSlaa and his perfect hair got flagged for OPI after Amon-Ra St. Upside Brown caught a TD, and I don't know if it was OPI. I don't know the exact rules. There's a lot of nuance to a lot of these rules. I'm not a wizard. But after that, on 4th and goal, Amon-Ra St. Brown committed OPI on Jalen Ramsey. I hate the Steelers, and I hate Jalen Ramsey even more, but that was OPI. But that was not before he zooped the ball to Jared Goff, who heroically dove into the end zone. Jared Goff's Superman launch was all for naught, as referee Carl Chafers angered the Detroit crowd so much, he may as well have announced the final pass interference penalty by saying, 2008 auto crisis crack epidemic Darko Milicic. First try, not bad. The city of Pittsburgh will now change their motto to the ruling on the field is a touchdown. However, I hate the Steelers, but that shit was hilarious. At number 22, the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry was vintage Derrick Henry. While playing the Patriots, they didn't have to deal with Milton Williams or Robert Spillane or anyone like that. They just ran the hell all over him until John Harbaugh decided he didn't want to coach in Baltimore anymore. This is also despite the fact that Lamar Jackson suffered his 85th injury of the season as he hurt his backy wacky and left the game so Tyler Huntley could come in. Mark Andrews had a backwards pass fumble negated by the fact that it was actually a forwards pass. Can't even say that with a straight face. Zay Flowers fumbled near the end of the game to stunt a comeback attempt after Baltimore let New England themselves come back in this game. Vibes are rough, and John Harbaugh's job may not be secure if you ask the fans. I think most teams want their head coach fired. At number 21, the Miami Dolphins. The Quinn Ewers legacy game did not go according to plan for Miami. He did not have that legacy game everyone wanted him to have. Oh, I don't think so. If you look at the first, second, and fourth quarters of the game against the Bengals, the game was pretty evenly matched. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, they played like absolute donkey piss in the third quarter. They gave up 3 touchdowns to the same guy. Shout out Chase Brown. They turned the ball over 3 times. Shout out Miles Murphy. The Dolphins had a harder time controlling their balls in the third quarter against the Bengals than Zach Wilson does when he's around MILFs. Quinn Ewers threw 2 third quarter picks, one to Barrett Carter and one to Jalen Davis. This game was a game where the Bengals really needed to find themselves, and holy shit, did they. Miami has now lost 2 in a row and their season's essentially over. With the Bucs and the Pats remaining, all they can do is play spoiler. At number 20, the Arizona Cardinals. It's time for my Who Gives a Shit review of the week. Elijah Higgins made Jacoby Brissett completely forget about the existence of Trey McBride. Speaking of Jacoby Brissett, he couldn't rely on garbage time to put up elite stats. Chad Ryland was our Rick Ankiel Yips kicker of the week. We all weep. It wasn't all bad though. Kirk Cousins did throw an interception to Denzel Burke, who sounds like a Madden created player. On the downside, Walter Nolan got carted off, Josh Sweat got hurt as well. They coughed up a 13-3 lead to lose 26-19. For fuck's sake, fire the coaches. At number 19, the Cleveland Browns. The major loss for the Browns, besides their 4th in a row since Shedeur Sanders said he needed a week of practice to stunt on these hoes. It's a meme, leave me alone, was Quinshon Judkins. Judkins suffered a dislocated ankle and a fractured fibula. Now, I think this goes without saying, but he might miss some time. Now, Shedeur Sanders did have 2 interceptions, and I fact-checked them to make sure I didn't get hate mail. His first one was a throw behind Quinshon Judkins, and it popped up in the air and into the hands of Jordan Poyer. The second one was a check down that was swatted 6 miles in the air by Joey Bosa and fell into the waiting arms of Daquan Jones. There was some good in this game against the Bills, though. Shedeur Sanders did have a TD throw to Harold Fannin, who's looked awesome in his rookie season, though Fannin did get hurt in practice this week. Carson Schlesinger is pretty much a lock for Defensive Rookie of the Year. The Browns did have a 4th and 32 near the end of the game, and I got a pretty good laugh out of that one. Their leading receiver was Cincinnati Bengals legend Travion Williams. Nice. But in the end, vibes are okay, even with the Quinshon injury. They very nearly played spoiler to the Bills, and they even got to maintain their draft spot. They also have the Jags' 1st round pick this year. Good work, gang. And number 18, the Indianapolis Colts. Their defense sucked, we'll get to that, but I'm only ranking them so high because of the fun story of Phillip Rivers. It's such a fun story to watch. He's come out of retirement, and honestly he's played half decent. He had 2 touchdowns to Cincinnati Bearcats legend Alec Pierce, and threw another touchdown to defense. How can Lou Anarumo be a legitimate head coaching candidate when they let Brock Purdy look like Joe Montana? The 49ers scored 10 points in the second and third quarters, and those were their lowest scoring quarters. 440 total yards given up, 5 touchdowns allowed on defense. The Indianapolis Colts had a 44-year-old quarterback on offense and 11 44-year-olds on defense. They were absolutely dreadful on the defensive side of the ball, and they owe Phillip Rivers an apology. Good lord. Vibes have decreased badly since the magical season of Daniel Jones ended. At number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders. The ethical tank continues. The Raiders made it a contest against a Texans team they shouldn't have been able to make it a contest with. Geno Smith was serviceable, much to everyone's shock, even though the game began in the most Raiders versus Texans way possible. by Geno Smith throwing a pick six to Derek Stingley. Also, Ashton Jeanty was superb on Sunday. Ashton Jeanty had a 60-yard TD catch to go along with 24 carries, 128 yards, and another rushing touchdown from 51 yards. This is who the Raiders wanted all along, and there's been some positive momentum as the season winds down for him. Unfortunately for them, they just couldn't pull out the victory, and the tank bowl is upon us. They did sacrifice a few players to the IR for the rest of the season. Brock Bowers, Jeremy Chin, and Max Crosby are all out for the year, and I'm pretty sure Max Crosby is real pissed about it. Now, I've been saying this for the past few days. Bold predicky time. Giants at Raiders will actually be fun. Genuinely. These are two teams who have absolutely nothing to lose. They can be capable on offense. Trey Tucker could have a legacy game. It will be a fun week. Let's get this show on the road. Before I go any further, if you like what you've seen so far, like this video and subscribe to the channel. I will be doing week 17 of these rankings, but I won't be doing week 18 because I'm tired and a lot of teams don't compete in week 18. And a lot of teams don't compete in week 18 anyway. They just play for shits and giggles. I will have a lot of long form videos planned for the offseason, a lot of year in review, a lot of playoff predictions. I still plan to do comedic shorts because I'm a funny little bitch boy who needs validation. For now, back to the video. Number 16. The Houston Texans. All I'm gonna say here is I'm real glad I didn't bench Ashton Jeanty for the fantasy semifinals. The Texans defense made Ashton Jeanty look like the guy from Boise State that the Raiders wanted all along. That supposedly elite defense made the Raiders look competent for way longer than they should have. The Texans didn't play their best game, but they did survive thanks to Kymie Fairbairn's leg and Derek Stingley's reflexes. The defense picked six Geno Smith and sacked him 3 times, and they scraped by to win their 7th game in a row. Vibes are good, though they still are 1 game behind Jacksonville. It's going to be a dogfight to the finish. At number 15, the Buffalo Bills. Honestly, the Bills caught a few lucky breaks in this game against the Browns. Shedeur Sanders made some critical mistakes that swung the momentum in the Bills' favor. James Cook continues to not slow down by any stretch of the imagination. He had 117 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen, meanwhile, continues to play like he's begging the Bills front office to get him a wide receiver 1. This game was too close for comfort, but in the end, the Bills prevailed. They can rebound this week at home against Philly. Also, Michael Badgley missing a field goal right as Ian Eagle talked about him getting cut from the Colts was very, very funny. At number 14, the Atlanta Falcons. Raheem Morris may have continued to save his job once again. Since being eliminated from the playoffs, the Falcons have won 2 straight games. They're just playing for pride at this point. Bijan Robinson was magnificent, Kyle Pitts continues to refuse to f off, and Kirko Move the Chains was decent. CJ Henderson sealed the game with as close of a game-sealing interception as you could ever make on Jacoby Brissett. In a battle of the birds that everyone will forget happened in about 2 minutes, the Falcons prevailed, and I would totally forgot what I was talking about. And number 13, the Minnesota Vikings. This team could have been so fun, but I find it so hard to give a shit. JJ McCarthy suffered a hairline fracture in his dominant hand, which was a sad way to find out that JJ McCarthy has any dominant qualities. He is now going to be out Christmas Day against the Lions. This means that Max Brosmer before Hosmer is going to start in his place. Lord have mercy on us all. It was a fun win for the Vikings, but who cares really? They're just waiting for the season to be over. At least Justin Jefferson was okay today. At number 12, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can't believe I'm saying this, but that was the funniest Pittsburgh Steelers win I've ever seen. The game was chaos. DK Metcalf got into an altercation with a fan named Ryan Kennedy who used his government name to heckle him. That fan held a press conference that made me wish Ryan Kennedy would live up to his government name by getting shot. The Steelers defense came through when it mattered most. They held the Lions to 15 rushing yards. They got a critical stop on a drive will be talked about for years by Lions fans who had the rug completely pulled out from under them by Carl Cheffers. The Steelers have reached their 2025 floor of 9 wins, and in week 17 we'll find out if they reach their 2025 ceiling of 10 wins. Vibes are pretty good. At number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't give a f about a draft spot. I just wanted to have fun, and I did. Joseph Lee Burrow terrorized Dolphins more than insert SeaWorld joke here, as he had 4 touchdowns in this game. Chase Brown had 2, T. Higgins had 1, and Mike Gesicki even got to lay down the hammer against his old team. Also, Bengals fans, we need to have a talk. Myles Murphy is good. I never gave up on him, and neither should you. He's finally hitting his stride. He recovered a fumble. He had a tackle for a loss. After not getting much of a shot in his first few years in the league, he's finally getting a chance to hit his stride on the Bengals defense. As maligned as this year has been, Miles has been an absolute dog and they need to pick up his 5th-year option. You owe that man an apology. I know Bengals fans want us to tank, but the Bengals want to win and they want to refine themselves. We have the Cardinals and the Browns in weeks 17 and 18. This season has been lost. I want the Bengals to find momentum for next season and develop whoever the hell we draft properly. At number 10, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints have won 3 in a row. Tyler Shuck continues to be the antithesis of Spencer Rattler, and Taysom Hill continues to be the antithesis of a perfectly normal football player. The Saints dominated the Jets from start to finish by sacking Brady Cook 8 times and letting Chris Olave do whatever the hell he wanted against the Jets. Olave caught 2 touchdowns, one from Tyler Shuck and one from Taysom Hill. The Saints are improving ever so slightly, and they continue to progress in Kellen Moore's first year. If they get a bunch of pieces, they could be a playoff contender sooner rather than later. At number 9, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans continue to improve, and this was far and away their best game of the season. Cam Ward has really improved and been a guy that Titans fans can actually believe in. Cam Ward threw 2 touchdowns. One to a guy who will be exclusively returning kicks in 2 years, and another to a tight end who will be completely off the team in 3 years. All talk aside, the Titans are finally heading in the right direction. They sacked QB to be forgotten later 4 times. Cam Ward put up with all the talk of Shadur Sanders' fans who are mad at him because it's fun for them, I guess? This was a dominating win against the Chiefs from top to bottom. Now, the Titans need to do for Cam Ward what the Patriots did for Drake May. Aside from making Cam Ward's nickname his full name, the Titans need to heavily build around him. Get him an O-line, some targets, a new coach, a new stadium, a new owner, a new city. Just build him an entire organization, goddammit. And number 8, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have become the first back-to-back winners of the NFC East in over 20 years. Hooray! You did it. Luckily for y'all, the rest of the division sucks. The offense took advantage of a bad Commanders defense, and the score could have been higher had Rick Ankiel Elliott not missed a bunch of kicks. Rick Ankle? I might make that a thing. Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby both got scores for the Eagles, with Tank Bigsby scoring his first touchdown as an Eagle, and my guy was amped. I like my guy. The Eagles won and eliminated the Cowboys from the playoffs. Philly fans have to be loving this season. And number 7, the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers now have control of their own destiny. Bryce Young wasn't spectacular, but the Panthers were able to capitalize on the Bucs' mistakes of keeping Todd Bowles employed. Lathan Ransom caught a critical 4th quarter interception to seal the game just as the Bucs were looking to tie the game. They made critical stops on Tampa all game. Panthers fans were all nostalgic by watching Baker Mayfield be mid. T-Mac was his productive self, and as a result, the Panthers are now in first place in the NFC South. They are currently at the summit of Mountain, which can be found on the Appalachian Trail. Thank you. And number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert was phenomenal, just as the Chargers were. Herbert had 3 touchdowns, one to QJ, one to Lad McConkey, and one of the tush push variety. Scott Matlock got all up India. Wasn't all good though, as Kamani Vidal suffered an injury and Denzel Perryman got suspended for 2 games. Though, like I said, a lot of positives. Quentin Johnson was the big play merchant everyone was horrified he wouldn't be, as he had 104 yards on a mere 4 catches. They made a critical stop on 4th and short in the 3rd quarter to make it go from a 1-possession game to a 2-possession game. As a result of the win, they have now won 11 games in back-to-back seasons. At the end of the day, the Chargers won and the Colts lost, meaning the Chargers were once again vaulted into the playoffs thanks to Phillip Rivers. Life is very funny. At number 5, the New England Patriots. Drake May continues to cement his 2nd place MVP case, and I stand by that fully. After trailing 24-13, the North Carolina quarterback who actually panned out came back and stomped the Ravens right in the testes. Drake May threw a touchdown to 1 reception for 6.2 miles and TD merchant Kyle Williams, and after that, Ramondre 3000 ran it in from 21 yards to give the Pats the lead for good. Stephon Diggs had a vintage game with 9 receptions and 138 yards. Hunter Henry, who was not Hayden Hurst, caught a touchdown, and the Patriots clinched a playoff spot. Hell yeah. What an impressive win by the Patriots, who deeply slimmed the Ravens' chances of winning the division and increasing their own chances at winning the division. Drake May is going to be a really good quarterback for a really long time. At number 4, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers continue to be excellent on offense, and Brock Purdy was elite in this game. The Niners had 5 passing touchdowns, 2 to CMC, and 1 apiece to George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, and DeMarcus I still don't know if the M is capitalized Robinson. Here's a stat for you. Thomas Morstead has not punted once in the month of December. It is December 27th as I record this, because I'm a procrastinating son of a bitch who just celebrated Christmas. That's absolute insanity. They did have a couple injuries though, as George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall both got hurt and had to leave the game early. Even with those corresponding injuries, Purdy still cooked and the 49ers clinched a playoff spot. This team is astoundingly good and somehow still in 3rd place. Whoever is the 3rd seed, and I'm pretty sure it'll be the Eagles, watch out. The NFC West could legitimately take up both spots of the title game. Even though I don't feel comfortable predicting the playoffs since this season has been so unpredictable, the 49ers are absolutely legit. They might even get Fred Warner back if they make it to the NFC title game. Oh god. At number 3, the Chicago Bears. What a crazy ending. Caleb Williams truly put on his big boy pants on the national stage. The wind gave the Packers the dropsies, and as a result, Caleb Williams had a 4th and goal touchdown to Jade Walker, whose name I had to Google 5 times. After that, the Bears recovered a fumble in overtime, and Caleb Williams threw an absolute bullseye to DJ Moore in the end zone. Chicago absolutely exploded, and the Bears clinched a playoff spot. Unbelievable comeback and surreal vibes. Ben Johnson has been coaching his ass off. The Bears are back to the ultra top of the NFC North, but they're 1 spot below the Seahawks for the top seed. The season doesn't get any less weird. At number 2, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Liam Cohen has turned Trevor Lawrence into an absolute Adonis. The Jags offense was truly excellent against a very, very good Broncos defense. Parker Washington had 145 yards, 113 of which came in the 3rd quarter. He zigged and zagged his way to 63 yards to put the offense in perfect position for Brian Thomas Jr. to haphazardly celebrate a Travis Etienne touchdown. It's been a really good second half of the season for Trevor Lawrence, and vibes are excellent in Jacksonville. This was a commanding win on the road against a really good Denver team, and the Jags have now won 6 in a row. They forced 2 critical second half turnovers that really sealed their victory. In week 17, they can clinch their division with a win and a Houston loss. Jacksonville is doing great. Shad Khan's mustache gets thicker and thicker by the day. But at number 1, the Seattle Seahawks. Unbelievable. The Seahawks were down 30-14 at the beginning of the 4th quarter, and Sam Darnold got out his flashlight to stop seeing ghosts. Rashid Shaheed took a punt to the house, and when Sam Darnold entered that same house, he immediately went to the pantry and found a cup. Then, they scored again on the most bizarre 2-point conversion I've ever seen, which was dubbed the Zachwards pass. Sam Darnold threw a lateral that was tipped by a Rams defender, and the ball was nonchalantly picked up by Zach Charbonnet for 2 points. Then, after letting Puka Nacua go apeshit on the Seahawks secondary in overtime, the Seahawks responded right away by throwing a TD to JSN, and they converted the most consequential 2-point conversion of the season to give themselves the win. Incredible win by the Seahawks, who have now vaulted themselves to the very top of the NFC West. They've clinched a playoff berth. I'm just happy they threw a pass at the goal line for a win this time. Malcolm Butler can't save you now, Rams fans. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for a lot of year in review videos and my final vibe check of the season, which will be coming next week. But for now, stay tuned for more sports content that you didn't ask for.